The billing clerk slid my chart back through the glass slot with practiced sympathy. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Hartman. Without payment confirmation, we can't proceed with the surgery." I laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. My husband already paid. He told me he handled everything. She lowered her voice, glancing at her computer screen. "There's no record of any payment under your name or his. The account shows 0 transactions." My phone was already in my hand, fingers shaking as I pulled up his contact. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Eliza, I'm in a meeting." "Where is the money?" I asked, my voice barely steady. "The hospital says there's no payment." He exhaled heavily, annoyed. "Eliza, not now. I told you I'd handle it." "They're saying you didn't." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. The billing clerk watched me with pitying eyes. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Hartman. Without payment, we'll have to reschedule. The operating room has been released." The surgery was off. The surgery I needed to survive was off. I stood there in my hospital gown, IV already in my arm, and felt my world tilt sideways. I sat hunched in a plastic chair in the pre-op waiting area, knees pressed together, the IV tugging uncomfortably whenever I moved. Across from me, a man was joking with his wife about hospital food. She laughed, squeezing his hand. I texted my husband again. "They won't operate. They say there's no money. What happened?" 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then reappeared. Finally a message came through. "Stop panicking. You're making this worse than it is." My chest tightened. Not with fear this time, with understanding. Something was wrong. Very wrong. A nurse appeared at the doorway. "Mrs. Hartman, can you come with me, please? Billing needs to speak with you again." I stood on shaky legs, the hospital gown rustling around me. Other patients stared as I walked past, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and sympathy. I'd been so sure everything was handled. My husband had insisted on managing the finances while I focused on getting better. "Don't stress yourself," he'd said. "I've got this under control." I'd trusted him completely. Now, walking back to the billing office, I realized that trust might have been the biggest mistake of my life. "My name is Eliza Hartman. I'm 40 years old. I work in middle management at a pharmaceutical company. I solve problems quietly, efficiently, without drama. At work, people depend on me. At home, I'd learned to depend on someone else." My husband, Trevor, 42, charming, successful in commercial real estate. We'd been married for 12 years. When the diagnosis came 6 months ago, a tumor that needed immediate surgical removal, I'd been terrified. Trevor had held my hand in the doctor's office and said, "We'll get through this together." I believed him. When the medical bills started piling up, when the surgery costs were quoted at over $60,000, he'd said, "Let me handle the finances. You focus on staying strong." I let go. I let him lead. I didn't check accounts, didn't ask questions, didn't verify anything. Because sick women aren't supposed to be suspicious of the men who promised to save them. Now, sitting in a paper gown with an IV in my arm and no surgery scheduled, I remembered his promise too clearly. "I'll handle it," he'd said. And I believed that meant he'd protect me. Not that he'd leave me to die. The billing office was small and fluorescent bright. The same clerk from before gestured to a chair. "Mrs. Hartman, I'm showing you the account statement so there's no confusion." She turned her monitor toward me. "Joint savings account. Trevor Hartman and Eliza Hartman." I watched her scroll through the transactions. 3 months ago, the balance had been $72,000, more than enough for the surgery and recovery. 2 months ago, withdrawal of $15,000. 6 weeks ago, another withdrawal of $20,000. 3 weeks ago, $18,000. Last week, the remaining $19,000. The current balance stared back at me, $847.32. But I couldn't form words. Where did it go? The clerk clicked to show transaction details. Multiple withdrawals, carefully spaced, deliberate. This wasn't chaos or confusion. This was intention. "Your husband is the primary account holder," she said gently. "These are all his authorized transactions." I scrolled down, my hands trembling. One charge made my stomach drop completely. A luxury purchase, dated 2 weeks ago. $52,000, to a boat dealership. He'd bought a boat while I was waiting for life-saving surgery. My vision blurred. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the mouse. The door behind me opened. I turned. Trevor walked in, smiling. "There she is," he said cheerfully, like we were meeting for lunch. You look good, hon. How are you feeling? I stared at him. Where's the money, Trevor? His smile faltered slightly. What money? The surgery money, our savings. It's gone. He rubbed his temples, a gesture I'd seen 1,000 times when he was annoyed. Eliza, you're being emotional right now. The stress is making you... I saw the account, I interrupted. Everything's gone. You spent it. The billing clerk quietly excused herself, leaving us alone. Trevor sighed heavily. This is exactly why I didn't want you worrying about finances. You're not thinking clearly. Then explain it to me, I said, keeping my voice steady even though I was shaking. Explain where $72,000 went. Investments, he said smoothly. I moved the money into better opportunities. Higher returns, it's still ours, just in different accounts. What about the boat? His eyes flickered, just for a second. What boat? The $52,000 boat you bought 2 weeks ago. He laughed, but it sounded forced. That's a business investment, entertaining clients. You wouldn't understand. I nodded slowly. Not because I agreed, not because I believed him, but because I suddenly understood that arguing right now would warn him. And I needed him to think I was still the trusting, compliant wife he expected. So I decided to stay quiet. For now. That night, they moved me to a regular hospital room to stabilize me before discharge. Trevor stayed for an hour, making phone calls in the hallway, barely looking at me. When visiting hours ended, he kissed my forehead. Get some rest. We'll figure this out tomorrow. I pretended to sleep after he left. But I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Around midnight, I heard voices in the hallway. Trevor's voice, quieter than usual but still audible through the thin door. I did what I had to do, he was saying to someone. The boat was a good investment. You'll see. A pause. Someone responding. I couldn't hear their words. Then Trevor again, even quieter. If she doesn't make it, it'll be easier anyway. Clean slate. No medical debt following me around. My eyes opened in the dark. My heart stopped beating for what felt like a full minute. If she doesn't make it, easier. Clean slate. He wasn't planning to save me. He was planning for my death. And he'd already moved on to what came after. The next day was what Trevor called family day. His mother, his sister, his aunt, they all descended on my hospital room with casseroles and forced cheer. You're so brave, his mother said, patting my hand. Such a fighter, his sister added. Then his aunt, meaning well but devastating. You've had a good life, Eliza. No matter what happens, had, past tense, like I was already gone. I looked around the room at their faces, sympathetic, prepared, resigned. They knew. They all knew I wasn't getting the surgery. And they'd made peace with it. Trevor stood by the window, checking his phone, looking bored. When his family finally left, promising to check in soon, I noticed something. Paperwork had slipped from Trevor's jacket pocket when he'd hung it on the chair. I waited until he went to the cafeteria. Then I reached for the folder. Insurance policy changes. My name removed as primary beneficiary on his life insurance. His name added as sole beneficiary on mine. Asset transfer documents. The house, which we'd bought together, now solely in his name. Dated 3 months ago. Contingency plans. Cremation preferences for me. Funeral budget minimal. Investment portfolio updates. His retirement accounts, previously joint, now individual. My name was missing from everything important. This wasn't negligence. This wasn't confusion. This was preparation. He'd been planning this for months. While I was sick, while I was scared, while I was trusting him to save me, he was preparing for my death like it was a business transaction. I photographed every page with my phone, my hands remarkably steady now. The shock had worn off. Now I was just angry. Trevor returned with coffee, completely unaware. Feeling better? He asked. Much better, I lied. An hour later, my doctor came by. Dr. Patterson, a kind woman in her 50s who'd been with me since diagnosis. She pulled up a chair beside my bed, her expression serious. Eliza, we need to talk about your options. The tumor is growing, Dr. Patterson said bluntly. Without surgery, you have maybe 6 months. With surgery, your prognosis is excellent, over 90% 5-year survival rate. But I can't afford the surgery, I said flatly. She nodded. I'm aware of the financial situation, but there's one option we haven't explored. I leaned forward. There's a research program through the university hospital, she explained. They'll cover the full cost of surgery in exchange for allowing medical students to observe and using your case for educational purposes. What's the catch? I asked. No catch. But you'd need to sign consent forms immediately. They have one surgical slot opening up in 3 days. If you don't take it, it goes to someone else. 3 days. I looked at Trevor, who was scrolling through his phone, barely paying attention. I need to make a phone call, I said to Dr. Patterson. She nodded and stepped out. I swallowed my pride and called my older sister, Catherine. We'd been distant for years. Trevor had encouraged that distance, saying my family was too dramatic. Eliza? Catherine answered, surprised. Is everything okay? No, I said simply. I need help. I told her everything. The missing money, the boat, the overheard conversation, the insurance changes. Catherine didn't hesitate. Take the research program surgery. Do it now. I'm coming to stay with you. Most people would have hesitated, asked questions, needed convincing. My sister didn't, and that's how I knew I'd survive this. I signed the consent forms that afternoon. Trevor was furious when he found out. You should have consulted me, he said, his voice tight with controlled anger. Why? I asked calmly. You consulted me about the boat? His jaw clenched. That's different. Is it? We stared at each other across the hospital room. For the first time in our marriage, I didn't back down. The surgery is scheduled for Wednesday, I said. You don't need to be there if you don't want to. Of course I'll be there, he said quickly. Too quickly. I'm your husband. But I saw the calculation in his eyes. He was already thinking about what my death would mean for him. The insurance payout, the house in his name alone, the freedom. I smiled at him. Thank you, honey. That means a lot. And I meant it, because I needed him to keep thinking I was naive, keep thinking I was weak, keep thinking I'd never fight back. 3 days later, they wheeled me into the operating room. Bright lights, cold air, the smell of antiseptic. I thought of nothing except breathing. The anesthesia mask lowered over my face. I thought, live, just live. Then darkness. I woke up in stages. First, pain blooming across my abdomen. Then relief as I realized pain meant I was alive. Then awareness of the recovery room around me. Beeping machines, hushed voices, fluorescent lights. A nurse smiled down at me. Welcome back, Mrs. Hartman. The surgery went perfectly. Dr. Patterson will be in soon to explain everything. How long? I croaked. 6 hours. You did great. I looked around the recovery room, searching for Trevor. He wasn't there. My sister Catherine was, though. She stood from a chair in the corner and came to my bedside, tears streaming down her face. You made it, she whispered. Oh God, Eliza, you made it. Where's Trevor? I asked. Catherine's expression hardened. He left after the first hour. Said he had a work emergency. A work emergency. While his wife fought for her life in surgery, my phone was on the bedside table. Catherine handed it to me. One message from Trevor sent 4 hours ago. Glad the surgery went well. We should talk about next steps when you're recovered. Not I love you. Not I was so worried. Not I'm sorry I left. Just, we should talk about next steps. I stared at the ceiling and understood everything with perfect clarity. He'd been hoping I wouldn't make it. And now that I had, he needed a new plan. I spent 5 days in the hospital recovering. Trevor visited once for 30 minutes, bringing flowers that the nurses had to water because he forgot. Catherine stayed the entire time, sleeping in the uncomfortable chair, bringing me real food when I could eat, helping me walk the hallways when I needed to move. You should leave him, she said on day 3. I know, I replied. I mean it, Eliza. He's dangerous. I know, I said again, but I need to be smart about it. Catherine studied me. What are you planning? I'm going to make sure he can never do this to anyone else. Over those 5 days, I did 3 things. First, I copied every document Trevor had brought to the hospital. The insurance changes, the asset transfers, all of it. Second, I forwarded myself every email from our joint accounts showing the withdrawals. Third, I started a detailed timeline of events, dates, conversations, witnesses. I watched Trevor relax more each day, thinking the crisis had passed. Men like him always relaxed too soon. They assumed survival meant compliance. They assumed I'd be grateful enough to stay quiet. They were wrong. On my discharge day, Trevor drove me home in silence. We need to talk about finances, he said as we pulled into our driveway. Okay, I said mildly. The medical bills are going to be significant. Even with that program covering surgery, there's follow-up care, medications, missed work. I understand. We need to make sacrifices. I looked at him. Like selling the boat? His jaw tightened. That's a business asset. Right, I said. Of course. I let him help me into the house, playing the weak, grateful wife. But that evening, while he was out meeting a client, I made another call. This time to a lawyer. The lawyer's name was Patricia Vance. Catherine had recommended her, a divorce attorney with a reputation for handling financial abuse cases. I met with her a week after my discharge, while Trevor thought I was at a follow-up medical appointment. Patricia's office was warm, professional, lined with law books. I laid out everything: the missing surgery money, the boat purchase, the insurance changes, the asset transfers. He overheard conversation about it being easier if I didn't survive. She didn't interrupt, just took notes with a small, sharp smile. When I finished, she sat back. Mrs. Hartman, what your husband did is called financial exploitation. And given the context, your serious medical condition, his control of funds meant for your life-saving treatment, this goes beyond typical divorce ugliness. Can we prove it? I asked. With what you've given me? Absolutely. She tapped the documents I'd brought. These asset transfers, done while you were incapacitated and trusting him to handle finances, that's textbook financial abuse. What happens now? Now, Patricia said, we build a case. We document everything. We prepare. And when we're ready, we move fast and decisively. How long? 2 months, maybe 3. I want this airtight. I nodded. I could wait 2 months. I'd waited 12 years. What was a little longer? That night, Trevor came home in a good mood. I got a big commission today, he announced. We should celebrate. That's wonderful, I said, smiling. We went to his favorite restaurant. He ordered expensive wine, steak, dessert. He talked about his plans, a bigger boat maybe, a vacation property. He talked about our future like I was guaranteed to be in it. But I noticed something. Every plan was his. His investments, his assets, his dreams. I wasn't a partner, I was an accessory. And soon I'd be gone entirely. 6 weeks after surgery, I was healing well. Dr. Patterson declared me cancer-free, with excellent prognosis. Trevor's reaction was strange, not relief, but something closer to resignation. That's when the complaints started. The medical bills are crushing us, he said one evening, reviewing statements. I'm sorry, I replied, playing along. You should be more grateful, he said, his voice edged with bitterness. I could have left when you got sick. A lot of men would have. You're right, I said quietly. I'm very lucky. You'd be dead without me, he said, and there was something cold in his voice. Remember that. I nodded and wrote everything down. Every comment, every manipulation, every moment he reminded me I owed him my life. Patricia had said documentation was key, so I documented everything. Meanwhile, Trevor made a critical mistake. He started bragging about the boat, first to his friends, then to his family, then fatally at his company's summer barbecue. I went with him, still moving carefully, still looking like the recovering cancer patient. People were kind to me, sympathetic. Then Trevor's boss approached. Trev tells me you got a new boat. Beautiful vessel. Must have cost a fortune. Worth every penny, Trevor said, grinning. His boss glanced at me. Eliza, that must have been a tough call, big purchase like that during your medical situation. The conversation around us quieted. Trevor's smile froze. Well, it's an investment. Eliza understands. I smiled sweetly. Actually, I didn't know about it until after. Silence rippled through the group. You didn't discuss a $50,000 purchase? Someone asked. Trevor laughed uncomfortably. It wasn't like that. Eliza's memory is still a bit fuzzy from the surgery. My memory is fine, I said gently. But we can talk about this later, honey. I walked away, leaving him to field questions. Patricia called that evening. I heard there was an interesting conversation at a barbecue today. News travels fast. In cases like this, it always does. Public mistakes are our friend, Eliza. What's next? Next, she said, we file. 2 days later, Trevor's accounts froze. I'd filed for legal separation and emergency financial protection, claiming financial abuse and exploitation during medical incapacity. The court granted it immediately, based on the evidence Patricia presented. Trevor couldn't access our joint accounts, couldn't sell assets, couldn't make major financial decisions. He came home that evening furious. What did you do? He demanded. I protected myself, I said calmly. Protected yourself? From what? From me? Yes. His face went red. I saved your life. No, I corrected. You almost let me die so you could keep a boat. That's not. You're twisting everything. Am I? I pulled out a folder, copies of all the documents. Want to explain these insurance changes? The asset transfers? The conversation I overheard about it being easier if I didn't survive? The color drained from his face. You were listening? I was dying, I said, but apparently not fast enough for your plans. He opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. Eliza, you're not thinking clearly. The surgery, the medications. I'm thinking very clearly, I interrupted. Probably for the first time in years. My phone rang. Patricia. The preliminary hearing is set for next week, she said. His attorney requested an emergency meeting. They want to settle. I looked at Trevor, who was pacing, running his hands through his hair. Tell them we'll consider it, I said, after the hearing. Word spread quickly through Trevor's family. His mother called me, her voice tight. Eliza, what's this nonsense about financial abuse? It's not nonsense, I said calmly. It's documented fact. Trevor said you're being vindictive, that you're angry about the boat. Did Trevor tell you he bought the boat with my surgery money? That he left me at the hospital without payment while he signed papers for a luxury purchase? Silence. That's not, he wouldn't. Check the dates, I said. I have all the receipts. She hung up, but the next day Trevor's sister called. Eliza, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Most people didn't, I said. Is there anything you need? Just the truth getting out, I replied. I don't want sympathy. I just want people to know what really happened. She paused. He's telling everyone you're exaggerating. Let him, I said. Paper trails don't lie. The hearing came fast. Trevor showed up with an expensive lawyer, confident he could spin this. I showed up with Patricia and 3 folders of evidence. The judge reviewed everything in silence. Then she looked at Trevor. Mr. Hartman, these documents show you systematically drained marital accounts meant for your wife's life-saving medical treatment. Do you dispute this? I moved the money into investments, Trevor said. That's not abuse, that's financial planning. Into a boat? The judge asked. A business asset, Trevor corrected. The judge wasn't impressed. Mr. Hartman, you changed insurance beneficiaries and transferred assets into your sole name while your wife was incapacitated. These actions suggest intent beyond financial planning. Trevor's lawyer jumped in. Your Honor, my client acted in what he believed were the family's best interests. By ensuring he'd profit from his wife's death, the judge interrupted. The courtroom went silent. The judge granted me everything I asked for. Full access to accounts, asset freeze on Trevor's purchases, requirement that he demonstrate where every dollar of our savings went. Trevor left the courthouse pale and shaking. I left feeling lighter than I had in months. That evening, Trevor asked to meet me, not at our house, at a neutral coffee shop. I agreed, with Patricia's approval. He showed up looking haggard, 10 years older than when I'd married him. Eliza, he said, sitting down, can we talk? Really talk? Go ahead. He took a breath. I made mistakes, I see that now, but I never meant to hurt you. You bought a boat with my surgery money, I said flatly. How was that not meant to hurt me? I thought you'd be okay. The doctor said your prognosis was good. I thought I had time to make the money back before you needed it. And the insurance changes? He looked away. Financial planning. My advisor suggested it. Your advisor suggested profiting from my death? It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Trevor? He rubbed his face. I was scared of the medical debt, scared of losing everything. I panicked. So you decided to make sure you wouldn't lose everything, even if it meant I might die. No, I never wanted. You said it was easier if I didn't make it, I interrupted. I heard you. In the hospital hallway. You said it would be a clean slate. His face crumpled. I didn't mean it. I was stressed, talking to my brother, just venting. You meant it, I said quietly. And now we both know the truth about who you are. Trevor tried different approaches over the next few weeks. First, he tried anger, threatening to fight the divorce, to drag me through court, to make me pay for destroying his reputation. Patricia shut that down with a reminder about the evidence we had. Then he tried guilt, reminding me of good times, of our wedding vows, of the life we'd built. I reminded him of the death he'd planned for me. Finally, he tried bargaining. I'll give you the house, he offered. Just don't take the boat. I almost laughed. Trevor, I don't want your boat. I want my life back, my self-respect, my future. You can have all that and let me keep something, he argued. You kept everything, I said, while I was dying. Now it's my turn. The divorce proceedings moved faster than expected. Trevor's family stopped defending him once the full evidence came out. His mother actually apologized to me. "I raised him better than this," she said, crying. "I don't know what happened to him." "Greed happened," I said, "an opportunity, and the belief that he'd get away with it." 6 months after I filed, the divorce was final. I got the house, half his retirement accounts, and a cash settlement that more than covered my medical expenses. Trevor got the boat, and a reputation that would follow him forever. The day the divorce was finalized, I went to my favorite coffee shop, the same one where Trevor and I used to meet for Sunday morning breakfast, back when things were good. Or back when I thought things were good. I ordered my usual vanilla latte extra foam and sat by the window. My phone buzzed. A text from Catherine. "How are you feeling?" "Free," I typed back, and I meant it. I wasn't angry anymore. The rage that had sustained me through the legal battle had faded into something quieter. Relief, peace, gratitude for survival. A woman approached my table hesitantly. "Eliza? Eliza Hartman?" I recognized her vaguely. Someone from Trevor's company, maybe? "Yes, I'm Amanda. I used to work with Trevor." She gestured to the empty chair. "Can I sit?" I nodded, curious. Amanda sat, clutching her coffee cup. "I heard about what happened, the divorce, everything." "Bad news travels fast," I said. "Good news too," she corrected. "You standing up to him, fighting back, winning." I waited. "My husband did something similar," Amanda said quietly. "Not medical bills, but financial control, hiding money, making me feel crazy for questioning him." "Did you leave?" "Not yet," she admitted. "But hearing about you, it made me realize that it's possible." We talked for an hour. I gave her Patricia's card. When she left, she hugged me. "Thank you for showing me it's possible to survive this." "More than survive," I corrected. "Thrive." I sold the house 6 months later. Too many memories. Too much of Trevor's presence in every room. I bought a smaller condo downtown. Modern. Bright. Mine. Catherine helped me move, along with a few friends from work who'd supported me through everything. "New beginnings," Catherine said, opening a bottle of wine in my new kitchen. "New everything," I agreed. I'd gotten a promotion at work. My boss had been quietly supportive through my medical crisis and divorce. "You handled an impossible situation with grace," she'd told me. "That kind of strength is rare." I'd started therapy, processing everything that had happened. "You trusted the wrong person," my therapist said. "That doesn't mean you were wrong to trust. It means he was wrong to betray that trust." It helped. Slowly I started dating again. Nothing serious. Just coffee dates, dinners, reminding myself what respectful human interaction felt like. Most of the men were fine. Some were boring. A few were interesting. One was special. His name was Marcus, 45. A teacher. Divorced with 2 teenagers. He was kind, patient, honest about his past and curious about mine. "I heard about what you went through," he said on our 3rd date. "With your ex, the medical stuff." I tensed, waiting for pity or judgment. "That must have taken incredible strength," Marcus said, "to fight for yourself when you were already fighting cancer." "I didn't have a choice," I replied. "Everyone has a choice," he corrected gently. "You chose to survive, to fight back, to demand better. That's not nothing." I looked at this man, genuine, warm, uncomplicated, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Marcus and I took things slow. After Trevor, I needed slow. But Marcus never pushed, never demanded, never made me feel like I owed him anything. "I like you," he said after 3 months. "But I also like taking my time, getting it right." "Me too," I said. We built something real, based on honesty, mutual respect, actual partnership. The kind of relationship I thought I'd had with Trevor, but never actually did. One evening, a year after my divorce, Marcus and I were having dinner when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello? Eliza." "It's Trevor." My stomach tightened. Marcus looked at me questioningly. "What do you want?" I asked. I wanted to talk. To apologize, for real this time." "Okay," I said carefully. "I know I hurt you. I know I was selfish and cruel, and I'm sorry. I should have been better. Should have protected you instead of planning for my death," I finished. Silence. "Yeah," he said finally. "Why are you calling now, Trevor?" "Because I'm in therapy, working on myself, and my therapist said I need to make amends." "So this is for you," I said, "not for me." "I want you to know I've changed," he insisted. "That I understand what I did wrong." "Good," I said. I'm glad you're working on yourself, but I've moved on. With who? Sudden sharpness in his voice. And there it was, the real Trevor, still just beneath the surface. That's none of your business, I said calmly. Goodbye, Trevor. I hung up. Marcus reached across the table, taking my hand. You okay? Perfect, I said, actually perfect. 2 years after my diagnosis, Dr. Patterson declared me fully cancer-free. No evidence of disease, excellent health, normal life expectancy. I'd survived. Catherine threw me a cancer party. My friends came, my coworkers came. Marcus came with flowers and his kids, who'd become part of my life too. Speech, someone called. I stood, glass of sparkling cider in hand. 2 years ago, I thought I was dying, and not just from cancer, from trusting the wrong person, from giving my power away, from not believing I deserved better. Everyone listened. But I survived because I chose to, because I fought. Because amazing people. I looked at Catherine, at my friends, at Marcus, showed me I was worth fighting for. And now, Catherine prompted, now I help other people fight, I said. I'd started volunteering with a nonprofit that helped cancer patients navigate financial and legal issues during treatment. Helping people like me, people whose partners or families took advantage of their vulnerability. It was healing work. To surviving, Catherine raised her glass. To thriving, I corrected. We drank. That night, after everyone left, Marcus helped me clean up. Have you thought about what we talked about? He asked. We discussed moving in together, taking the next step. I have, I said. And? I'm ready, I said. For something real, something permanent, with you. He smiled. Good, because I already started looking at houses with 2 home offices. I laughed. Confident, aren't you? Not confident, he corrected. Just certain. About you. About us. 6 months later, Marcus and I were at a farmer's market on a Saturday morning when I saw him. Trevor. He was with a woman, young, pretty, looking uncomfortable. He saw me the same moment I saw him. For a second, we just stared at each other. Then Trevor walked over, the woman trailing behind. Eliza, he said. It's been a while. It has, I agreed. He looked older, smaller somehow. The confidence that used to define him had faded into something harder and more desperate. This is Kara, he said, gesturing to the woman. My girlfriend. Nice to meet you, I said politely. Kara smiled nervously. Marcus appeared beside me, carrying a bag of fresh vegetables. Ready to go, love? Marcus, this is Trevor, my ex-husband. The men shook hands stiffly. You look good, Trevor said to me. Healthy. I am, I replied, completely cancer-free. That's great, I'm happy for you. We stood there in awkward silence. Then Trevor said quietly enough that only I could hear, I know I don't deserve to ask, but are you happy? I looked at Marcus, solid and kind beside me. I thought about my condo, my job, my volunteer work, my health. I thought about the life I'd built from the ashes of what Trevor had tried to destroy. Yes, I said simply, I'm very happy. Trevor nodded. Good, you deserve that. I do, I agreed. And I walked away with Marcus, leaving Trevor in the past where he belonged. Marcus and I got married the following spring. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Nothing elaborate. Catherine was my maid of honor. Marcus's kids stood up with him. Dr. Patterson came, which made me cry happy tears. You're my favorite success story, she whispered as she hugged me. My vows were simple. I promised to be your partner, to trust you with my fears and my strength, to build a life based on honesty, respect, and genuine love. Marcus's vows made me cry. I promised to protect you, not by controlling you, but by standing beside you, to celebrate your strength instead of fearing it, to love you for exactly who you are. We bought a house together, both names on the deed, both names on the accounts, everything shared and equal. I finished my master's degree in social work, specializing in medical crisis intervention. I started speaking at conferences about financial abuse during medical crises. My story helped change hospital policies, helped create protections for vulnerable patients, helped ensure what happened to me wouldn't happen as easily to others. I was living proof that survival wasn't just possible, it was powerful. 5 years after my diagnosis, I stood in front of a room full of medical professionals and patients' rights advocates. I was the keynote speaker at a national conference on protecting patients from financial exploitation. My name is Eliza Carter, I said. I'd taken Marcus's last name gladly. And 5 years ago, my husband spent my surgery money on a boat. The room was silent. I told them everything. The fear, the betrayal, the fight, the survival. I'm not telling you this for sympathy, I said. I'm telling you because it's still happening. Every day, vulnerable patients are being exploited by the people who should protect them. But, I continued, I'm also here to tell you that fighting back is possible, that surviving is possible, that thriving is possible. After the speech, a young woman approached me. My mom is going through something similar, she said, tears in her eyes. Her partner is blocking her medical care. I didn't know what to do. I gave her my card. Call me. I'll help. That night, I came home to Marcus cooking dinner. How was the speech? He asked. Good, I said. Really good. He kissed me. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of me too, I said. We ate dinner, talked about our day, planned a weekend trip, normal life, beautiful, peaceful, earned normal life. Later, as I was getting ready for bed, I caught my reflection in the mirror, healthy, strong, alive. The scar from my surgery was barely visible now, but I remembered what it represented. Not just survival, transformation. I'd been the woman who trusted the wrong person, who gave away her power, who almost died because of it. Now I was the woman who fought back, who reclaimed her life, who helped others do the same. Trevor had tried to make me disposable. Instead, he'd made me unstoppable. And that, I thought, smiling at my reflection, was the sweetest revenge of all. Not because he lost, but because I won. I chose myself. I survived. I thrived. And I'd never let anyone make me feel disposable again.